With that, I'm going to ask Randy first and then have Jason. Like, where do folks go to prepare? So we're talking about preparing. We're talking about having your data. So you have and now you have this construct of how to answer things. But where does that data come from? Randy, let's go to you first. We'd already just mentioned Glassdoor is one potential place.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it lies in the obvious, your resume. So you want to make sure you can speak to everything that you put on paper in front of that person that's interviewing you. And then you're asking about preparation. Just a quick answer that I'd give you is phone a friend. So get somebody, be it somebody in your household, somebody in your family, one of your friends, have them sit down with you, prep them with the questions that you anticipate this person will ask. And then, kind of have them critique, have them walk you through those questions and practice interviewing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing a practice interview. You're going to be more comfortable when you go into that real deal interview if you practice a little bit. You know your resume, you know the situations you've been in, you feel ready to ask the questions or answer the questions and move forward. So those would be kind of my two answers. And the other thing is, it's okay to have notes in an interview. Sure, you've got your resume, ideally you have it printed out, the employer has it printed out, and that's good. But you know what? Good old-fashioned piece of paper where you've prepped the battlefield a little bit with some additional notes, and you can get to those quickly, I think is a great way to prepare. I like to color code things. When I do an interview, I like to have certain areas of my career color coded so I can find them quickly, look at them for a second or two, and then answer the question while looking at the interviewer in the eye. So that's my take. I'll kick it over to you, Jason.
All right. So for me, if I was to go have an interview tomorrow, I would dust off the job requisition because I'm going to want to speak to everything within that as much as I can and kind of read between the lines and really get a feel for not only what they're looking for, but why they're looking for it. Sometimes, depending on this position and company, right? It's a people thing. Some recruiters will make these very elaborate job postings, job requisitions, and there is a lot of information in there. This is not a closed book test, right? You have all the information you need there. In addition, I'd look at the website for the company. I would go into their mission statement, about us, who we are, who the leadership is, who, what their backgrounds are. Maybe one of them is military, whatever. And depending again on what kind of a role you're going for, maybe you might not be that far removed from the upper crust of that company, and you'd want to be able to kind of chime in lightly. Chris, was with the Navy, or in some cases, you're going to interview with these people, and I've done that before in the past. Just a light reference. It shows that you did your due diligence and that you're actually taking it serious. I will say, this is going to sound weird. Don't overthink it. Don't be somebody you're not. Be authentic. Be yourself. Be a good version of yourself and be the best you can be, but be authentic. Because if you sell them on something that you're not, one, you're going to have to hold that up and you're going to hate your life. So be authentic, right? Just be yourself, and it takes the pressure off, right? It goes back to, at least this is for me, and maybe it doesn't work for everybody, but for me, again, if I'm sitting at an interview table, I'm trying to create a relationship with these people, not just this back and forth. I'm trying to visually see myself on the other side of the table, sitting next to them, and being authentic helps to do that, and it lowers down the stress, right? One of the things that I wanted to talk about, Chris, is we all here have interviewed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I mean, maybe more. I don't know. I don't know if I've hit the 1,000 mark, but I've interviewed quite a lot of folks in my time. And I will tell you, and I'm guessing that you guys are the same, we might have some pet peeves as interviewers. Like, oh my God, the person leaves the interview room and you're like, you look at the other people on the panel and you're like, I can't believe had to sit through that, right? So you have to think about what you're leaving as an impression on these people, right? So again, it goes back to the authentic, have a conversation. I mean, these are people, you're all one team, one fight, trying to make this thing happen. And you can be a little bit motivated and you could be yourself. So what I'd like to see is, what are a couple of your pet peeves, Chris, when it comes to somebody who you're interviewing and you're like, this person is just totally going downhill fast? Because I think we can learn from that, right? These are some things we shouldn't do, right? So I'd like to hear that, Chris.
Yeah, look, number one, people who come in unprepared, right? If you come in late, or you come in without questions, or you're there and you're expecting the interviewer to drive everything, or the person that you're speaking to drive everything, that's kind of a pet peeve. If your first question, and if you don't have questions, like, you're not going anywhere after this. Like, if you haven't done anything to help me help you, I'm not wasting any more time on you. And that's no matter who the candidate is or where they come from. And the wrong questions are just as bad. Hey, can you tell me a little bit about your company? No, we have a website. Like, this isn't the 70s anymore, right? There's a website. I would expect you to actually do some diligence. I would expect you to go understand how we make money and have questions about it. I would expect you to go do your research and understand what industry are we in. What is one of the things that candidates can do is they could go to Yahoo Finance and look up the company, and then look up SAIC code, which will tell them the industry code. And that tells you all of the competitors. And you could start doing some research on, what is the marketplace? What is the company's mission and vision? How are they doing? What challenges are they having? And this all comes back to you being able to help that company move their business forward and delivering on the outcomes. And so I would say the lack of preparedness tells me that you're really not that interested. The second thing that was a pet peeve of mine is when people, because this is you could get beat up in the interview process, right? It's hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to not get interest when you could do a job. It's just hard, and it screws with you mentally, physically, and it could really deteriorate your hope. If you come in all beaten up and battle weary, I'm going to help you, but I'm not going to help you get a job at my company. Right?
Right.
Because there's a high risk of failure. If you've lost hope and you've lost that ability, like if you come in asking for charity, please give me a job, I'm at my wit's end, nobody else wants to hire me. The first thing that's going to come to my mind is like, there's probably a reason for that. Now, I'm going to help you, and I'm going to try to motivate you. I'm going to try to get you, ready to have the right conversation. But I'm not presenting you to anybody in my company until I know you're in that right state of mind, right? And a lot of that comes back to that preparedness piece, right? So those are a couple of things that really tweak me. How about you, Randy?
I'll give you 3. I'm going to give you 2 general ones, and I'm going to give you one specific for the military, veteran, and spouse community. So first one, if you have somebody that doesn't make eye contact in an interview, that's a concern to me. If they are not engaged, they're not having a conversation with you, they're not willing to make eye contact, I'm going to have some questions about that person right off the bat. So my advice is kind of like Jason said, kind of like you said, Chris, be in the moment, be there with that person, try to envision yourself working with that person. And that means having a conversation like a normal human. And, make eye contact, be polite, and answer the questions. So that's the first one. The second one is the distracted interviewee. So if you have an interviewee that's always on their phone, looking down, checking their texts, not present in the moment, their mind is, on their device, and then, half the time with you in the conversation, that's a concern to me. So my advice is turn off your phone before you go into the interview. I don't mean put it on silent. I don't mean put it on vibrate only. I mean, just turn the damn thing off or leave it in your car.
But Randy, that's where I have the interview. Like, I'm listening to you guys. You're telling me to do all this preparation, come up with all these great questions, but that's where I have them. Like,
right. Get a pad of paper, bring it into the interview, turn your phone off, folks, because when I interview people and they're halfway into their phone or into Instagram or whatever else they're doing in their virtual life and not paying attention to the questions I'm asking, it's a real concern. And then this one's really for the military community out there. I think the first two can go to anybody, but the jargon thing and the lingo and the acronyms thing. Folks, we've talked about this in other reviews, but I need you to sanitize that. I need you to spell it out in plain language, because if you use jargon, they may not take the time in the interview to clarify. There's times when somebody is so jargony with me, I don't take the time to clarify. I just move right on to the next question. So responses should be in plain language, and ideally language that's crafted to meet that business's mission, needs, and intent. So translate military lingo, jargon, and acronyms into that employer. Spend 5 minutes on it. Divest yourself of all those jargons, and I think you're going to be in a lot better spot.